Chapter 13, Prince Grogba. Mum was right to worry. For well over an hour, goblins came pouring into the hotel's back garden until there wasn't a bit of space left. I was starting to believe that the prince didn't exist at all. But finally there was an extra loud horn blast from the musicians. "Prepare, unworthy creatures," the royal shouter bellowed. "The time has come for his dukiness to arrive." I glanced down the golden corridor and saw an ornate chariot making its way towards us, pulled by a team of miserable-looking goblin servants. "Heave!" they shouted. "Heave!" The chariot reached the double doors, but where was the prince? It seemed to be completely empty, except for a long, thin feather poking up out of it. I looked about and saw that everyone had the same confused expression on their face. We watched as the feather jiggled and moved to the edge of the chariot, and the shortest, fattest goblin I have ever seen hopped down onto the ground. Grogba was barely taller than a bag of flour, but much, much wider. The prince looked like a grey pumpkin in curly-toed slippers. He was dressed in pink and purple robes covered with tiny gold embroidered flowers and was dripping in jewellery of every kind. Bangles and necklaces tinkled as he walked, and the rings on every one of his fingers glinted in the sunlight. On his head was a bulging turban with a diamond brooch in the shape of a crescent moon on the front, fastening a huge feather in place. It was 5 times taller than he was. "Greetings, pathetic overlings," he said in a squeaky voice, then smiled as if he'd just paid us all a compliment. "Bow at my feet, grovel at my gobliness." Dad said. He looked back at the rest of us and gestured for us to copy him as he bent down on one knee. We all did the same. "Lower," Grogba commanded. "Marvel at my hunkledom." We all got on both knees and bowed forward. "Lower or die." The goblin guards brandished their swords and bared their teeth. How were we supposed to bow lower than the prince? We'd have had to lie flat on the ground and shove our faces in the dirt. "Oh, mighty Grogba," Mum blurted out and rushed forward, bowing and nodding like crazy. "We are so humbled to have you stay at the Nothing to See Here hotel. On behalf of all of us, staff and guests, we have prepared a—" "Ah!" Grogba screamed and darted behind the nearest guard. "Human! There's a human here! A dirty, stupid, lumbering, ugly, stinksome human!" Mum looked like she'd just been slapped round the chops. "Prince Grogba! Ah! If I could explain! Ah! We actually— Ah!" "Run the hotel!" The prince stopped screaming and peeked out from behind the expressionless guard. "What?" he said. "Don't lie to me. Wretched human guards. Slice this human into chunklets and feed her to my beetles." "Whoa!" Dad stepped forward and raised his hands. "It's true, Prince Grogba. My great-great-grandfather, Abraham Bannister, built the hotel." The prince reeled backwards when he saw Dad. "There's more of them," he said with a look of horror on his little fat face. "It's a plague." "I can assure that there is no plague," Mum said, trying to sound calm. "We are the Bannister family and we manage this hotel." "My great-great-grandmother is Regurgita Glump," Dad added. He took his glasses off and lifted his head, letting the sunlight catch the copper tinge to his eyes. "See, I'm a halfling." Prince Grogba stopped his whimpering and glared at both of them. There wasn't a person in the whole of the magical world that hadn't heard of Granny Regurgita. "You," the prince said to Dad. He looked so disgusted. I thought he might be sick. "The offspring of Mistress Glump?" "Yep," Dad replied. "'Sright," Mrs. Dunce shouted from the top of the slide. "If I may," Lady Leonora said, floating out of the crowd. She pulled a ghostly flower out of the air and offered it to the prince. "The Bannisters have magical blood and are nothing to worry about, Your Highness." But Grogba's bottom lip trembled. "We've prepared a feast for you," Mum said, pulling her famous welcome to the hotel smile. "How could I possibly eat with the stink of humans in the air?" "There's gull gizzard pate and cockroach," Nancy said. Grogba's jaw dropped, and I spotted a little line of drool dribble down his chin. "I told you magical creatures were greedy." He stepped back out from behind the guard and straightened his robes. "Well, I suppose I can tolerate the stink if there's just 2 humans," he mumbled. "Well," said Mum carefully, "actually there are 3. "What?" Grogba clutched at his necklaces in panic. Mum pointed in my direction and the prince slowly shifted his gaze towards me. "Hello," I said, waving. I couldn't help but enjoy the look of revulsion on Grogber's face. Prince Grogber blinked wildly, opened his mouth to speak, and fainted, face down in the mud with a satisfying squelch.